Hello, and welcome to the bridge. Hello, Patrick. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic. My name is Comrade Britt, by the way.
And I am Pat.
And you are listening to Soy Trek on the Dumb Idiot Bullshit Podcast Network. Welcome, everybody.
Welcoming.
Indeed. We're here today to talk about some Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 7, Erigah. But first, let's talk a little bit about our Patreon. Do you know we have a Patreon?
I do, actually. Yes, I've heard a couple things about it.
Yeah. So we got a great Patreon over at patreon.com/dumbidiotbs. And that's Dumb Idiot BS for our podcast network. We got a bunch of shows on there. We've got, of course, Soy Trek. We've also got My Wife. We've got Dumb Idiot Bullshit. We've got Getting Head of Bucket Cast. We got Prison Breakdown. And we've got The Media Dungeon, our movie podcast. Yeah. So we got a bunch of stuff there. Over at the Patreon, we've got a bunch of different tiers, and you can get a bunch of different stuff. By tiers, I mean TEARS. You know, we be crying into our soup over a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah,
extra seasoning, extra salt. It's nice. It's very nice. So for as little as $2 a month, you can help support us, and we'll be very appreciative and say thank you, a general thank you to all those people who help support us. But for as little as $5 a month, we'll give you a shout out on the podcast and say thank you to people just like Dylan Lance, Jordan Hale, Elizabeth Hearn, Nick Savard, Shane Sawyer, David Craning Sites, Electric Baphomet, Gursky, Jor Moore, Kyle Simmons, Gillian McCrary, SFC Punk, 7 of 9, D. Riker, Ethan Adams, James Hartman, Iggy, Abigail Simpson, Shane Williams, Sam Mayo, Seb, Robert Yolito, Asher Pliskin, Skeptic, Papa Poison, Awful Star Trek Drawings, Jose Martinez, Nova, Gabe Siciliano, Big Strong Boy, Vinny, Luna Dahlia, and their wonderful project Bar Trek in Philadelphia. We got former Twink. We got Nathan G. How about some David James Robinson, Phil McCavity, Danny, Locke Finile, and our good friends over at Hate Speech Podcast, the Bruce Campbell Podcast, and Anamorphin Time, the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for all your support. We really appreciate it. Let's see, what other things do we have on the Patreon? How about for $10 a month, you get access to the Media Dungeon. What's the Media Dungeon, you may ask? Well, it is a Plex server that I run from right at my feet here in Kirkland, Washington. Basically, it's a streaming server where I have so much media you cannot even comprehend it. Nearing 20,000 films, which is more than all of the other streaming services put together. Straight up. More films than anybody.
You can shake a stick at. I mean, you could shake a stick at if you were in that room in Kirkland, Washington. You could shake a stick at it.
Right, but I'd be like, what are you doing in my room with that stick? Please get out. And then if you start lubing up the stick, I'll be like, well. Looks like we got ourselves a situation. Zip.
Yeah, if they're lubing up the stick in your bedroom, they were there to do that from the beginning.
Oh, yeah. And I, to be fair, I probably invited them over on Grindr, like, can host bring stick.
Please bring own stick.
Yeah. I cannot provide stick. Can host, but no sticks. Sorry.
Thankfully, there's lots of trees, though, around there. You can easily just pick one off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, but it's really about, like, finding the right kind of stick, You just don't want to, like, be choosing any branch, any felled branch around with, tons of, like, sub-branches and stuff like that. That doesn't go up a butthole so well,
You probably want to whittle it and then like smooth it with like sandpaper, like a fine grain, so it's like wouldn't like snag on anything when it's actually used. Like you want a good quality, like prepped stick.
Right. This seems like a job for like a grandpa. Yeah, like a grandpa with a wood shop. Be like, well, I've been retired now for the last 12 years, so what I do is I whittle dildos. I whittle big old sticks.
Yeah, they'll be millennial grandpas.
Yeah, I whittle big old sticks and find fellas on Grindr and go and lube up that stick and stick it in their hiney. You know what I'm saying? Son?
Yeah, in 30 years, like every grandpa will just be like on the porch, like rocking back and forth in the old rocking chair, just preparing butt sticks.
Grandpa, turn off your notifications. I can hear your grinder again.
Oh, okay. Oh, his dentures are out for the evening. He's going to have some visitors.
Oh, yeah. they like it gummy. They like it real gummy.
Whittling the stick and like dentures are in the on the nightstand.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be Grandpa's night.
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, well, that's our Patreon.
That's our Patreon.
That is definitely our Patreon. So if you like to hear the show, we'd appreciate it if you went over to patreon.com/dumbidiotbs and signed up, even for free. We like the support. Yeah. You get all types of stuff there. You get to listen to all of our episodes as soon as I get done making them, sometimes up to like a week or two in advance. You get our entire backlog of stuff on Getting Ahead of Bucketcast. We used to do one special episode every week, so we've probably got like a good 50, 100 episodes in there, including some crazy stuff like, oh God, what was that guy's name? Do you remember like the social media influencer guy who committed suicide by cop?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
Radmilk.
What was his name?
Radmilk.
Yes.
Radmilk. Yeah. So we interviewed him. We had an episode with him on there like 2 months before he committed suicide by cop.
Were there any early warning signs in that interview? I guess you have to listen to it to find out.
Right. We also have I think a 3-part series with Cool Shrek, who you might be familiar with from Twitter or Instagram. Yeah. We had them on, and we just talked entirely about quicksand fetishists. Yeah, there's some really good content in there, to be honest. Like some pretty fucking good podcasting.
Yeah, I feel like, as we all know, like quicksand isn't like the big threat we all thought it would be, like when we were children, but it has like spawned lots of fetishes about it.
Oh, but
it's just like, it's one of those fetishes that's like nearly impossible to act on because there is no quicksand.
Quicksand doesn't really exist. Right.
Yeah, you're not going to like suddenly find yourself in quicksand and also like have time. And if you did, like, it'd probably be alone. You'd probably wouldn't be in like any sort of sexual situation doing it.
Right. So fun thing though, there's this place down in either Arkansas or Alabama, I think. And it's called The Compound on quicksandfans.com, which is, the forum for this type of thing. But it's a place you can go and you pay like certain amounts of money and you can stay there for like a week or two. And they have, I think, 8 or 9, maybe it's like up to like 12 or something like that. But they have different like venues and like different, some of them are rooms, some of them are indoor, some of them are outdoor, but they're places with all types of different quicksand and quicksand related things, because most people think about quicksand and I say quicksand fetishists and they just like think, oh, it's just like the watery sand or whatever. But quicksand fetishism like encompasses a lot more materials and stuff like that, and in as much like a lot more quicksand fetishists I think are into peat moss than they are into actual quicksand.
So it's like really big in Scotland, I guess.
Yeah, probably. I mean, lots of weird things are big in Scotland,
Yeah, lots of weird Scottish people just like stripping down and sticking their dicks in some peat.
Yeah, this is what happens when you invent golf and scotch.
And kilts, which are just like easy access to sticking your dick in some peat.
Right. Have we ever talked about utility-kilts before?
I know, like when I moved to Seattle, and when I was walking around like downtown Seattle, I think one of the first stores I saw was like the downtown Utilikilt.
Oh, the Pioneer Square one.
Yeah, in Pioneer Square, and I was just like, what the fuck? There's like they make enough money to have a downtown location.
I mean, it's like the shitty part of town at that point in time, but yeah.
I mean, is it still there? I mean,
I don't think so. No.
I definitely call it Pioneer Square Pee Anywhere Square because that place smells like pee.
Oh, it certainly does. It certainly does. Yeah, that place is special. But anyway, enough about pee. Let's get into some Discover E.
Running with pee? So I don't know if you want to. I think we both have been following this today, but I don't know if you want to briefly discuss,
Brianna Wu. We gotta. All right, before we
because that's been pissing me off all day.
Oh, it's been doing a number on me, man. Like I can't believe some of the things this person said. I don't. So, I mean, I guess I do know.
Yeah, I'm guessing she's like some sort of like video game developer. Like, I know she's been like a character on Twitter for some time.
Right.
Like,
so backstory.
Kind of unfamiliar about her backstory. Yeah.
Backstory to Brianna Wu. Brianna Wu is like a video game developer. And they are probably best known and rose to prominence as being one of the primary victims for Gamergate, along with Zoe Quinn. Yeah. Yeah, who I actually happen to know, and thankfully Zoe hasn't gone far off the deep edge like Brianna here. Gosh, I'm just gonna start. So apparently there was like some back and forth, and I think there was on Twitch or Discord or something. Brianna Wu got into a conversation and an argument with Jesse Gender. The YouTube video essayist who does a lot of stuff on Star Trek, but also like gender issues and stuff like that. They're trans. And they do a bunch of like pro-trans stuff, which is rad. But so
I've seen some of their videos.
Yeah. They did one of my very favorite videos on all of YouTube, the Sex in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the like 5.5 hour long video. It's, in my opinion, one of the best uses of the medium. It's really wonderful. Anyway, so they got into a fucking argument on Discord or something like that, and because of that, Brianna Wu decides to go ahead and start posting with a capital P. First thing she says here is Star Trek is, and then in capitals, not socialist. If you think Star Trek was socialist, you didn't understand Star Trek. Technologically has progressed to a post-scarcity society on some places like Earth. But there's private property ownership, Cisco's restaurant and Picard's Vineyard. There's private enterprise. There's no centrally planned economy by Earth's government. A huge part of Star Trek is the market economy. As they explore space, they are constantly trading resources, and a lot of the relationships with other species, even the Alpha Quadrant, are about resources. Many episodes of DS9 are about the value of the outpost for intergalactic trade. Individual freedom and private enterprise is a huge part of Star Trek. People design ships, explore space, and pursue careers as they see fit. They have to meet standards to enroll in Starfleet. They are not given the assignment by a central government. The resources for survival don't seem to be limited in some privileged societies in Star Trek, but that does not make it socialist. Okay, there's a lot to break down here. God, do we just want to do like line by line here? Because I can't figure out any other way to do this. So, first off, let's make it clear that she's talking about Star Trek as an entire franchise. She's talking about, every character on Star Trek, and if you take it at that value, yeah, Star Trek does not have any kind of socialist messaging whatsoever, really, because it's about different competing factions. However, like most people who watch Star Trek, you kind of get the impression that the Federation is mostly like the faultless, idealist part of the society, right? And I don't know if you can really make an argument that they're not socialist. I mean, yeah, they have markets and they do bartering, but socialism has markets and bartering.
Like trade, that doesn't mean trade. Like something like trade is all completely abolished of any kind.
Right.
That's like something that still exists. Like with any sort of like, especially like a spacefaring type of society, like of course, like you would that would need to happen. Like that's a main, that's a big focus of like say Voyager, especially when like they do a lot of like and the Federation itself. I mean, when she talks about like there's never any, if you look at the whole of Star Trek, there never is any sort of profit motive for anything that anybody does.
No, and there's
like there is
there's neither that nor is there like worker exploitation by the Federation.
No,
unless you consider like the EMH, like worker exploitation, like or the robots from the beginning of Picard. Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we could I guess make that argument, but I don't really jive with that. And they're talking mostly about DS9 here, which blows my mind even more because like the messaging when they do talk about economics in DS9, the messaging is entirely anti-capitalist. They're only talking about like the Cardassians like exploiting workers in their mines and shit, and then also Ferengi just exploiting people. Like
like the Federation taking over Tarek Noor wasn't to make space money.
It was an anti-colonial action. It was a neutral anti-colonial action by them.
Yeah, they felt like if anyone was going to take over this thing, especially in this disputed territory, it'd be the Federation, who has like no incentive, no monetary incentive to go either way or like take a side and anything. Like it was like a diplomatic outpost for them.
Yeah, it's God, there's so much to say about that. All right, we've got two more posts that I'm going to read here just because they're absolutely daffy. So someone says to her in response to what I just read, says, okay, it's more of a social democracy than anything else, but we are way past the days where Klingons were communism allegories, so the Federation's economic framework is sort of up to interpretation. Which I kind of agree with. Like the thing is, like, you can't say that it's not socialist because they never talk about the government and their economics. They never do. Like the most you can really get out of it is like, the speech in like First Contact or whatever, where Picard is like, oh, we don't have fucking money anymore and shit like that. It's
like they act like their purpose which is like the, in an ideal, so socialist society is like communist society is you would be working solely for the betterment of everyone else. You'd be pursuing your own passions and striving to better yourself and acting to better yourself and everyone around you.
Right.
And talking about like Cisco's eatery, like he's not making money at that. He's doing it. It's something he's able in the society where money isn't an issue. He doesn't need to worry about
it's his hobby.
Basic.
It's literally his hobby. It's his passion. Like it's just what he likes to do. There's at no point where does Cisco's dad go, oh shit, I can't pay the rent on the restaurant this month, or fucking anything like, or like, oh god, potatoes are getting too fucking expensive for me to do mashed anymore as a side. Like, no,
and also, the vineyard is a passion project, and then you look at like other examples where it's just like Quark is like making demands of Cisco, and Cisco's brings up the fact like we provide you with free rent technically and free power. Like we don't charge you for anything. Like we provide this to you just because we are not looking to make any sort of profit off of your own business. We like the Federation respects the Ferengi wanting to have their own business and everything else, but they see Quarks mostly as just like a place for everyone to hang out and go jack off in the hollow suites. they're not like we're Quark's landlords, so we can like squeeze them for cash or make a cut.
Right.
Like it's never something, the gambling itself is like something that like they do out of fun. It's not like they're losing their shares. I think even like Lord Dex makes a joke about that where Boimler is like winning big at the Dabo tables when they visit DS9 and, and then like they're all like freaked out and he's just like, oh, I'm in the Federation, I don't need this money.
Yeah, you don't need money in the Federation. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's he gonna do with Latinum? What's he gonna trade that for? Like his own spaceship? He doesn't need that. He's on the Federation spaceship. Like,
yeah, and I do like, just like the fact like she brings up like, oh well, people, there's a meritocracy to people in Starfleet, and that's a sign that it's not communist, and that there's government applied jobs. It's like, does she not like? If you look at the Soviet Union, it went from a agrarian, art like backwards culture to like
they became
competing directly with the United States.
Yeah, they became a post-industrial nation in the span. They went from an agrarian peasant population to a post-industrial citizen population in like 50-year period, which like a bunch
and won the space race.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, sure.
And you're trying to then like say like, oh, like obviously like they put the best people forward, it's just like, and that people like to point out to a lot of like losses, but you could look at the same, losses just within any sort of industrial revolution, especially in America where people are, but like, it's just like it's trying to say like that there would be no meritocracy in some sort of like socialist or communist sort of society is completely absurd.
Yeah, it is. It's really, it's more than anything, it's daffy. Like, the idea that, meritocracy only exists in capitalist market economies is not only absurd, it's dumb. It's like, it's just blank brain bullshit.
And exactly, you could like, the Ferengi are the stand-in for current day humanity and Deep Space Nine.
Sure.
Like Quark is considered like one of the most successful capitalists in Deep Space Nine. He's not the most successful because like he's like the best. He's like the best at what he does. It's like he mostly makes his money by being willing to do illegal and morally gray actions to get ahead.
Absolutely.
And to exploit people for his own benefit. It's not because he is better than anything else. If anything, it shows like his brother Rom, like he's considered to be a useless person in the Ferengi culture. He's terrible at making money. He's terrible at exploiting people. He's too empathetic for that.
Right, but but then he proves himself to be the most useful person on DS9. Like, if it weren't for Rom, the Dominion War would have ended like years prior, because he's the one who mined the wormhole and prevented the Dominion from getting more forces into the Alpha Quadrant. So
yeah, his skills were that he's like a genius level engineer, but he didn't even recognize it. Like, people commented on it, and he himself didn't think it was like something that was like particularly like groundbreaking. He thought it was just something he did for the benefit of his brother, because, right? And then within like embracing Starfleet, not Starfleet, but the Federation in general. He's not a not commissioned person on the thing. Like, he ends up becoming one of the engineers, and that's where he finds purpose. He gains self-worth about himself, and he realizes that he's like not a stupid or useless person. He's actually incredibly smart,
and he does this all after reading Marx and organizing his workplace in an episode that is like inarguably a socialist episode. Like, there's no other interpretation of bar association. 100%. It's I mean, that, and I'd also say that the Bell riots, like, in general, those episodes are pretty. I mean, I don't see how you can interpret them in any other way other than socialism. Like, the sanctuary districts are created because basically capitalism has gone out of control at this point and replaced all of its workers with machines. And so you have the people who like maintain those machines and own those machines as your capitalist class, and then everybody else is in sanctuary districts, not working, basically being in an open air prison. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which sounds, I guess, yeah. So I guess she's right. Like, Star Trek is capitalist at some points, like right before the Bell riots. When you're with the Ferengi or the Cardassians, like, she's pointing out, like, she's like, oh, Star Trek, the messages you should take are the ones from the villains. Like, what, lady? What are you doing? What are we doing here?
And if you look at Ferenginar is probably the most representative of current day American culture. It's just like, they have microtransactions. It is a patriarchy and they have like a second class that is seen as like they oppress and actively they actively rally around and keeping down women, keep them from wearing clothes or owning property. And it's just like, and you see that today. Like, we can just like we have like the people who you can point fingers to as to in our current day society, it's always immigrants, or of course women are always like the trans people, who just sees them as like the scapegoat, or the second class that we can build up everything else around.
Yeah, I mean, like, the capitalism requires a second class to exist.
Yeah.
So continue on here. Brianna responds to this message from Ben Wasserman and says, it's kind of not. There is no interpretation of DS9 that is socialist, which hurt me at the core of my being and my brain. And I mean, the first off, like, I mean, in the rules of social reproduction, there basically are no rules. Like, you can interpret anything any way you want. Like, you might have a wrong interpretation. Like, her interpreting Star Trek is like a free market show, I think, is absolutely daffy, but that is an interpretation. Saying you can't interpret art as something is a really weird take to have, art or media. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's not like, DS9 is like holds like the is like seen as like the political Trek show. It's definitely one of the more political ones. Like, it's like but politics has always been like a feature of Star Trek. It's not like it's and most conservative Star Trek fans I know are definitely like fans of TOS and TNG, because you can definitely like despite like the overwhelming socially progressive messages that are contained within that, they can still find ways to like misinterpret those. But it's just like Deep Space Nine, I feel, is like actually like saying actually like screaming the loud part.
Oh, it is. It is
like it is like unequivocally like impossible to misinterpret like the messages of Deep Space Nine, and the fact that she still continues to she somehow did that is pretty astounding. It takes some massive mental gymnastics to get around that.
Absolutely. All right, so there is one more comment from Brianna here that I want to read that just like broke me in half. She says, the Borg in Star Trek are basically a metaphor for progressivism.
Yeah.
You have to think...
I always love this argument.
You have to think the same thoughts of the hive mind, and if you deviate, you will be destroyed for the good of the collective. Individuality is erased. There is no hierarchy.
Which is... Again, this goes back to like the ROM example, where, ROM comes from a deeply oppressive culture where you have to fit into this certain mold to be successful or be seen as a useful person. And, and the same is true with, and it just shows how like capitalism completely eliminates any sort of like individuality or, and constantly, and just smooths everything over to make everybody the same. And that's definitely true with the Borg, where they have a queen, CEO, right, who all the drones work to appease, and they work for the queen. They don't work for themselves. They're working solely for the benefit of a person who is considered their better.
Right.
What better example do you want of capitalism, where everyone is forced to forego any sort of like passion, or free will,
or individuality? Like everyone's been forced to give up individuality to serve a greater good. Which, I mean, you can make an argument.
And the greater good is the benefit to the CEO.
Right, exactly. And so, you could make an argument that it's an analogy for like one state communism. That makes sense to me. I'm pretty sure that's what it originally was meant to be. But also,
also it was like seen as the that like the dark side of like the Federation. Like. Imperialism. You can definitely see it as imperialism, where we go to different countries, we absorb what we like, and then basically just put McDonald's there, and then like tailor like different McDonald's food for the local population.
McDonald's, more like Burger King. Got him. Burger King. I fucking got him, everybody. I got him.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, you go to like, you look at all the places that we've definitely moved our culture and everything else, places like Japan, and we've taken like the parts we like from Japan, their anime and all that stuff, and then we're just put McDonald's there, and we're just the McDonaldization of America.
McDonaldization of the world.
McDonaldization of the world.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave it there for Brianna, because we're over half an hour in now. But wow, that shit is the dumbest shit I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid. Like, apparently she's from Boston, so she's pretty close to where I live now. So
interesting.
Maybe I'll see her on the street one day and shake my fist and be like, "You're wrong."
Probably do that. So. With that, do you want to get into talking some Star Trek for the day?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Let's do that.
All right, let's do it. So, this week we reviewed Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 7, Erigah. This one first aired on May 9th, 2024. It is the 62nd episode of Discovery and the 915th episode of Star Trek overall. This one was written by M. Raven Metzner, who wrote 2005's Elektra and no other films ever. He has written and produced a ton of TV, including Clue, Falling Skies, and Sleepy Hollow, where he presumably met Alex Kurtzman, as Alex Kurtzman was the head producer on Sleepy Hollow. This one's directed by John Dudkowski. Dudkowski is one of the primary editors of Discovery, with 17 editing credits under his belt, including all of the series and season premieres. So he always does episode number 1 for Discovery for every season. He only has one other directing credit, which is for Discovery Season 3, episode Unification 3. So, we ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, so we open on a ship floating in space with a repeating signal in Maul's voice saying, "Special offer courier services, limited time only." Their small ship is in a tractor beam of a much larger fleet headed by the USS Lockerer when Discovery warps there. On Discovery, Commander Nan tells Burnham that the message was broadcasting on a loop on a courier channel, and special offer is courier speak for SOS to other couriers. Nan tells Burnham that Admiral Vance wants her to bring a team aboard Discovery to assist with security. Burnham is happy to oblige. Nan gives Burnham Valek's diary, which was found in Maul's possession, and Valek, as we remember, is like one of the doctors that hid the progenitor technology. Burnham wants to get to work on translating it, and Nan says she knows a Romulan who can help. So elsewhere, actually, well, not elsewhere. They come in. Yeah?
That's weird that they need like an actual Romulan to translate it. Like, they don't have any sort of like translation software that can just instantly do that.
It's very strange, right? Like the Universal Translator can't work with that. I'm confused, but that's fine.
Yeah, like it can't just. Didn't they also?
They also can't really translate the brain. Yeah, so
because remember they saw the first pages through Fred's eyes, and then like the computer instantly was just like translated in real time.
It did, yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm confused about that. So Book is arguing with some security officers, keeping him out of sickbay because he's not supposed to be there. But Book heard Maul and Locke were being beamed over to sickbay. Nan says nobody can enter without Admiral Vance's say-so. But Booker thinks they could extract information out of them. Book argues that he knows Maul best, so he has the best shot at getting her to talk. He's talked to her for like 10 minutes. Like, he doesn't know her best.
Yeah, even I that's the thing. Like, I feel like she does have a very boring personality to me, both her and Locke. You know, they're obviously like some like Bonnie and Clyde type.
Yeah, they're
archetype.
Right. Their big character trait is codependence.
Yeah, yeah. And then like, you know, smoldering looks, you know, that she gives with smoky eyes.
Oh, so smoky. Like, God, those eyes are the smokiest eyes. It's like a California wildfire.
Yeah, we could put that into a liquid smoke bottle, and like, and of course, like Locke just looks like ass face from Preacher. he just has like a weird butthole mouth, and yeah, I'm just like, and that's the thing. I don't understand. Like, I kind of understand just because, like, you know, we've been sold that they're like this codependent, like, you know, Bonnie and Clyde type people, but it's just like I don't. The two characters don't have any sort of charisma that I actually believe, but
they don't have a lot of chemistry is the problem. I mean, a lot of people on the show don't have a lot of chemistry, especially basically all of the couples on the show don't have chemistry at all. Like Michael and Book, Michael and Book have a little bit, but
I would say Culber and Stamets. I feel like
they did until Culber died and came back, and then it's just been weird since then, to be honest.
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, those two, Gray.
They feel the most natural as a couple, I think.
Gray and Adira.
That was awful.
Yeah.
Therapy, speech manipulation.
Oh, Michael and the Klingon guy.
That was the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Like-
a lot of bad
Like,
romance
I
on
kind of
here.
understand, like, Burnham and Book, just because, for all my complaints, I think Book is very, he can't, like, he is very charismatic.
He is. No,
in a way-
he's a good actor. I like what he brings to the show, except they just, like, put his character in the dumbest plot lines, and killing him and bringing him back the last season cheapened everything. It let us know that we will never have any real consequences on the show ever again.
Yeah, because also I feel like I do feel his role now is sort of redundant, because it is just like kind of replaying like the previous season's arcs with him again.
Right.
And so I think it would have benefited actually if he died, but I do feel like they probably know he's like one of the more likable characters on the show, so they're we can't get rid of him.
They could have done something with that, though. They could have killed him off and then like been like, oh, but he was an empath, so like his his empathic consciousness is still floating out there, and they put it into a robot or someone different, or I don't know. They could have done a lot of things there, but they didn't.
Yeah, they did it. They did it with Gray. Why not anybody else?
Right. So,
but also I feel,
yeah. So
that is true. You are right about like death being very cheap on this, because we had Culber die. Culber came back as a mushroom clone. Gray died. Came back as a robot.
Georgiou died. Came back as Mirror Georgiou.
Yeah, Georgiou died. Came back as Mirror Georgiou. It's not like death. Cheating death is like some new concept to Star Trek, but
no, it happens. But at the same time, fucking they murked Yar, Jadzia Dax. Like, there are real consequences in a lot of Star Trek. So Non tells Book that the last time she saw him, he was a security risk, which is very true. Burnham says he's been helpful so far, and after Book leaves, Burnham tries to convince Non that he's a good, trustworthy man. She's like, he's a good man. I trust him. And Non is like, yeah, I get your two's relationship. I don't know. It's... She's like going way too hard to bat for a guy who is a criminal, especially when she's like kind of a mutineer still too and everything. I don't know. There's too much trust for untrustworthy people in this program, I think.
Yeah, but I do feel like,
it's like literally what Book did. He did a Michael Eddington last season. And it'd be like if fucking Cisco was like after Eddington mutineers or whatever, if he was just like okay, you can be the chief of security again, that's fine, you're fine here. Like what are you doing? What are we doing?
But I don't think Eddington would have returned. I mean, Eddington was more openly hostile to Cisco,
right, and the Federation in general. So Burnham and Non enter medbay, where Locke is about to be beamed directly into a medbed. Maul reportedly went ballistic, so they're trying to keep them together, but separated by a force field. They beam into the medbay, and Culber gets to work on healing Locke. Maul blames Burnham for his injuries. Culber pulls Burnham aside and says they're losing Locke, but they don't know much about Breen anatomy. Culber thinks they may have found a way to heal him, so Burnham says, do it. Discovery warps to a Federation headquarters when Admiral Vance requests to speak to Burnham before docking. Burnham meets Vance in her ready room, and he tells her there's been a change of plans. The refrigeration unit beamed over to heal Locke will remain with Discovery as they get far away, as the Breen bounty on Maul and Locke has been intercepted. Inasmuch, a Breen warship is headed towards Federation headquarters. Needless to say, the Breen must be kept from getting Maul and Locke or any inkling of the progenitor technology. Burnham is pissed that Vance intends to deny having the prisoners, but Vance explains there is an Erigah placed on their heads, and the Breen will stop at nothing to get them. Burnham wants to confront the situation when the Breen arrive, to which Vance agrees, but Maul and Locke have to remain on Discovery. Opening credits, 9 minutes in. This might actually be the shortest cold open we've had so far this season, but it's still very long.
Yeah, that was a lot. I totally forgot that the theme song hadn't even happened yet.
Yeah, right. So, in a conference room at Federation headquarters, President Trina, Saru's girl, meets with Vance, Burnham, and Raynor, and she's been delegated to negotiate with the Breen in this matter. The Breen haven't been contacted since before the burn, but the Federation knows there has been unrest on Breen since the death of their emperor, and 6 Primarchs are currently at war for control of the Imperium, and they don't know which Primarch is coming. Raynor thinks they can be reasoned with, but Trina disagrees. The Primarch seeks power, so there is likely something they can give them, but will let them call off the Erigah, which is like a bounty. Raynor says the Erigah is a blood bounty, and they'll start a war over it. Raynor brings up the last time they encountered the Breen, and Vance assures them they won't be fooled this time. So, Burnham has her wheels turning and says the Breen don't need to come to the Federation to make this demand, so there must be a personal reason behind the Erigah, or for them to want Maul and Locke, but they need more information. Trina recalls that Saru said the Breen civil wars are about succession disputes in the royal bloodline. Vance wonders why this is, since no one would need Locke for succession. Raynor suggests a lot of weaponizing, or at least appearing to do so, but he's rebuked, and he's getting mad. Trina accuses Raynor of xenophobia, but he insists the Breen are the xenophobic ones, since their version of the Prime Directive is basically a genocidal one.
Can you stop being xenophobic against these Nazis?
Yeah, right. Sure. It's a very, I feel like I've had this conversation so many times with liberals, you know. Yeah.
And that's pretty fucked up to say that to Raynor. Like, didn't he say like his entire family was like wiped out by the Breen?
We don't know that yet, but yeah, he hasn't revealed that yet.
But he clearly suffered like horribly under the Breen.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, and then Trina's just shaking her finger at him like now.
Right. Like, this is like a liberal like scolding a Holocaust denier, or a Holocaust victim or something like that. Like, no, Israel has nothing to do with the Nazis. No, completely different situations. Hamas attacked first. Hostages. Yeah, very much so.
I do feel like they just keep Raynor around just to yell at him all the time.
Yeah, he's kind of the punching bag. Yeah. He's like the guy who's unreasonable, even though he's oftentimes kind of the reasonable one. It's like, grumpy old man.
He's sharing like his firsthand experience with them.
Yeah, right. But they don't know quite yet that it's firsthand experience. So
yeah, true.
So Burnham orders Raynor to wait outside like a dog. She's like, "Go wait in the cold, dog." Burnham tells Vance and Trina that they need to get information out of Maul and Locke before the Breen arrive, and she thinks she's the one to get it. They agree to let her try, but tell her to keep Raynor in line. Keep that dog on a leash, is what they say. So outside, Raynor is pissed and tells Burnham a defensive position will get them killed, but Burnham dismisses him. Burnham says this seems personal and asks if he has any information they could use, but he refuses and apologizes for his tone. Burnham orders Yellow Alert in preparation for the Breen. Next, we go to Tilly, who's talking with Stamets and saying she's returning to Starfleet Academy right now. But Stamets says they need her there and tells her if her and Adira focus on the most recent clue enough that they can understand it. Tilly wonders why they're focusing on a clue when the last time the Breen encountered the Federation, they wiped out a whole city. Stamets insists the clue is the most important thing in the Federation right now. Tilly agrees to return to Adira and try to figure out the clue with them.
This like, you know, B plot I thought was very funny. Just as like they're literally dealing with like a Breen dreadnought later on, and he's still like, we gotta figure out this clue.
Yep. I mean, it's like red directive, buddy.
You would probably think, you know, they would need some of their science officers. Is Tilly a science officer? I mean, I guess.
Was she? Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know she's a teacher now, but like, still, like, she's bridge crew, and then they have Stamets, and he's just like, he's just still like, nerding out about this
fucking clue.
Just like, I feel there's more pressing issues.
No, not to him. Not to him. So over in sickbay, Locke is improving. Burnham warns him that the Breen are on their way, demanding them in an Erigah. Burnham recalls that they were trying to buy their way out of the Erigah with the progenitor technology. Burnham says it must be serious since they're sending a whole warship for them. Burnham says the Federation are risking themselves to help. Maul says if she really wants to help, she'll let them go, but Burnham points out Locke's condition. Locke says some things are worse than death, and it's clear the Primarch doesn't want to kill them. Burnham guesses at Locke's lineage, but he won't talk. Burnham concludes, because she's so smart, that Locke is necessary for the Primarch to take the throne. Burnham puts together that Locke is in fact the successor of sorts, and he must be present for his uncle to take the throne. And Locke confirms this. He's something called the Scion, like the car company, the short-lived car company, the fully customizable car, if you remember. So, in the science lab, the phrase on the clue has a match to a Betazoid book from 2371 by one of the scientists studying the progenitors. They need the book, but more specifically, the original handwritten manuscript, but Zora has no record of it. Adira asks Zora to scan for any book experts in the Federation. Tilly has a sappy conversation with Adira about finding their way, and this part made me want to eat a phaser. Suddenly, Zora has a book expert recommendation, and it's none other than Jet Reno.
How coincidental.
Very coincidental.
That just happens, like, of all the people within the Federation, the foremost ancient book expert is Jet Reno, who doesn't even consider that a big part of their
we've never heard it. Yeah, right. We've never heard it mentioned before.
Like, yeah, and then it turns out she's mostly just deals in like the procurement, and then
she moves books. She's a book shipper,
she
basically.
Moves books. She's a book shipper.
She's basically an Amazon driver. And
I'm just like, literally, of all people in the Federation, there's no one else that's qualified.
No.
But
nope.
I mean, I understand for like, it's like they want to keep the story moving, and because. And I do feel like that's sort of like the weird mashing of tones they have in each episode, where there's like, we have to have these really high stakes where everyone needs to be running around and like everything's super important.
Right.
But then like, then you have like, you also have to have like this, looking around for ancient books type plot line.
Right.
And
so something that strikes me kind of weird now that I think about it is they're asking for her expertise on a book that was written when she like didn't exist at all, like because they left. Right, because this is from TNG era, and so this book was written 100 years.
Yeah, she's born pre-TOS.
Right, and so she wasn't alive for this era at all. She jumped straight into the future, and they're like, hey, we need information on a book that was written like 100 years after you warped 1,000 years into the future. Like, what? How is she going to know anything?
Yeah, and also, especially on something like at that point, like they didn't even have any sort of contact with Betazoids.
Right. True.
Like they had never met the Betazoids.
Right. Because
like that's why like when they go back in time on they bring Jet Z. No.
Troy?
Wait, did they?
Wait.
Troy, yeah.
Yeah, because, I don't believe, at least Betazoid definitely wasn't a part of the Federation at that point, for sure. So.
No, maybe they did know about them. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Who knows?
So Tilly and Adira approach Reno, who admits that she padded her resume with the claim that she's a book expert, and she really just used to move old books for an archivist, which is basically a smuggler. Reno didn't know about the book they're looking for. No shit. And suddenly the Breen arrive.
Yeah, you would think like any person from Betazoid would know about, actually know about this book, rather than like a person who just did smuggling as like a side gig
100 years before this book was written.
100 years before this book was written.
Right. Yeah, this is like asking your Amazon driver about a book that's written 100 years from now. It doesn't make any sense to do. So
I'm going to do that.
You should. So at Federation headquarters, Burnham beams in and says the Breen ship is the same one they saw while time cycling, meaning it destroyed the Federation headquarters in an alternate timeline. Admiral Vance hails them. Burnham reveals Locke's royal lineage to them. A holographic Breen appears in the room, and it's Primarch Rune who demands the fugitives. Trina introduces herself, but Rune refuses to negotiate. Trina tells him extradition orders will need to be processed for Locke and Maul, but Rune gives them an hour to do so. Burnham has an idea. So, with Stamets, he's trying to find a star system for the clue with Zora's help and finds numerous possibilities. Book comes in and Stamets explains they're dividing up the clue to try to figure it out. Book offers to help and Stamets accepts, which is like, Book feels like such an afterthought on the season. He's just like going around and doing odd jobs because he's bored. This is like the second or third episode where Book just like walks into science and he's like, I'm bored, can I help? And Stamets is like, fine.
Yeah, I feel like if not for, this hastily tacked on, like, Maul is the closest thing that he has to family type plot line, like,
yeah,
what motivation other than like, having him close to Burnham is there for him to be here? Because he seems like he's like, every time they were asking him to do something, like he's like, he's still on some sort of like conditional release, and he's just like, right. Well, I have to. And so it's just like, he doesn't even seem motivated to even be doing this, except that they still included him on every single away mission and every single major thing that's happening.
I think it's their attempt at like I don't know, like some kind of redemption arc, I guess, for a lack of a better term. Like, he fucked up real bad the last season, then died and got resurrected, and now he's just like, I'm here to help, and I'm not going to get in your way. I just help with things. I'm the helper guy. Help.
Which is typically, something you see with people who have near-death experiences. Like, they're just like very glib about their existence and just like, well, I guess I'm just here. It's just like, you didn't have any sort of like, major profound truth revealed to him in death, and like he has to make the most of it. I mean, I get like his planet was destroyed, and Maul is the last component of that, other survivor. But like, I don't know. But even still, I don't feel like they've really, like, as you said, like, he's spoken to her twice, and there doesn't seem to actually be any sort of like significant relationship between the two of them.
For sure. So yeah, it's wild. With Burnham, she asks Raynor what he knows about Breen's succession, explaining Locke's lineage. Burnham realizes Raynor's homeworld was used as a Breen outpost for years, but Raynor doesn't like to talk about it much. Then he does, and says a Primarch named Tahal took over their world and set up a military base there. Burnham again has an idea and thanks Raynor for sharing his trauma with her. And a bunch of bad stuff happened when they set up the military base. Like every time America does it. So with Reno, she tells Tilly and Adira that she used to have book contacts in the past, but they're all dead now. No kidding. Reno says if the original manuscript was important, the scientist who hid the clue would have tried to preserve it. Reno suggests the Eternal Gallery and Archive. She says it's neutral, all worlds are welcome, and a lot of rarities are in there for safekeeping. But somehow nothing in there is available to Zora or Federation computers, even though it's like an open source thing? Okay.
It's supposed to be like no borders.
It's basic.
Any information's available.
It's like Wikipedia, but like you have to know the URL to get there.
It's just like which also doesn't make sense, especially they just got like a ways of traveling long distances in this timeline,
right.
Because they didn't have warp technology. Like warp technology was like non-existent for so long, and so basically this moving library was completely inaccessible to anyone.
For hundreds of years.
It was only available to whoever was around the area, because for anyone else it would be like a multi-decade type travel,
right?
Type travel to get there. So it's just like, is this like, what is even the point of it?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, if you wouldn't make it freely accessible, like on the internet.
Yeah. So Reno suggests that the metal card with the clue is a library card to get into the Eternal Gallery. Over in sickbay, Culber tells Locke that he's finally stable. Locke thinks the Breen can't be reasoned with, but Culber thinks anyone can find common ground. Culber leaves to let Locke get some rest. He and Maul talk about Rune and getting the progenitor technology, and believes the Federation will never get them up and they'll be stuck in a brig. They make an escape plan. At Federation headquarters, Trina gives a plan the go-ahead, and they tell Run that they're prepared to hand the fugitives over. So they beam over, but Trina says their hour isn't up quite yet, and they should talk first. Trina speaks fluent Breen and gives a counter-offer of 45 metric tons of dilithium. It's really weird she can speak fluent Breen when, like, the Federation barely even knows Breen and they have to, like, translate it.
Yeah, it's not automatically translated through the universal translators. It's like, and the fact that they are such a secretive culture, where it's just like, very little actually gets out for as common knowledge to anyone else, and right. She's somehow able to
speak the whole ass language. Right. It would make sense if like maybe Raynor could do it, but Trina doesn't really give any explanation whatsoever, other than, hey, she's just so cool and such a great diplomat, Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Also, this is like another, I think, didn't she mention at some point like Saru was on some sort of like mission? Yeah. And it's just like, what, like why isn't Doug Jones in this season at all? It's very strange.
He hasn't, I mean, he was for the first 4 episodes, I think, but he hasn't been in the last 3, which is strange.
Yeah, very odd. Like, I don't know. It's like, was he busy or something?
Yeah, Doug Jones, I don't know. Maybe he just got tired of it and he's like, fuck it, I'm over this. I don't know. So, Trina speaks fluent Breen and gives a counter offer to give them 45 metric tons of dilithium to call off the Erigah. Rune says that the only payment for an Erigah is blood and refuses. Trina announces they tried diplomatic negotiations and these have been refused. She announces instead they will give the prisoners over to Primarch Tahal. Raynor uses his knowledge of Tahal to convince Rune that this is true. Rune threatens to blow the station up if he isn't brought Locke, but Trina knows he would never risk harming Locke and his claim to the throne.
Well.
Yeah. Politics. In sickbay, Maul and Locke put their escape plan into action, and Maul gets out by Locke injecting himself with a ton of meth and shooting Culber. Maul starts to escape and says she'll come back for Locke, but then Non shows up and the two of them fight, and Maul gets away. So, Primarch Rune offers to give more than whatever Tahal is offering for the Erigah, but Trina rejects this and suggests that the Federation keep the prisoners. She says if they do that, Rune can simply settle his disputes in battle unless he's a motherfucking chicken. Bark, bark, bark. Rune warns that if Locke is harmed by the Federation, he's sworn to war. And Trina gives him a word, and they make the deal. But this obviously is not like advantageous for Non. I don't know why he's taking this deal at all. Like, I don't know why he's not just calling their bluff and being like, well, I'm gonna do battle with Tahal either way, so you fucking give me Locke or I fucking blow you up and then Tahal. Like,
yeah, it doesn't. I didn't really fully understand why he was so quick to just accept that offer.
Yeah,
you know, especially like, yeah, and it's just like the idea. I mean, he does bring up the fact, like, you know, I hate that other Primarch, but you know, she hates the Federation just as much as I do.
Right.
You know, she wouldn't. She and I just, it just seems like, you know, it's one of those things that's hard to, like, you know, confirm, but it's just like, it seems like how they would even get in contact with her and negotiate this, and then why he then feels like these people who were actively, you know, working against him, trying to sell his nephew or whatever to his biggest enemy, why would he then, like, say, like, okay, keep him because he's better under your control, he's safer with you.
Interesting idea here. So it strikes me kind of queer. I mean, everything strikes me kind of queer. That they picked up the transmission, the coded transmission from Maul and Locke, you know, from the beginning of the episode, and that's why the Primarch is headed that way in the first place. However, they didn't pick up any coded messages or any transmissions between Federation and Tahal. Interesting.
Maybe. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's those things where it's just like everyone has to be like the biggest dummy in order for
the writing to work. Yeah,
things to work.
So, Non contacts Burnham, who has beamed back to Discovery. Maul is cloaking her biometrics and cannot be found on the ship. Burnham orders a lockdown. Culber is awake again and trying to heal Locke, but he's losing him and needs a Breen medic's help because he doesn't know shit about the Breen. So, over with Book, he studies a star map and a ship lockdown is announced. He deduces Maul is escaping and figures out her location pretty quickly and starts to go after her. But Stamets, once again, objects because they need to do the clue thing. And this is the second time in the episode this has happened. Someone's like, I'm leaving to do an important thing. And Stamets is like, no, the clue! So...
yeah, it's like this clue can literally be solved at any time.
By anybody. I don't know why they need these very 4 specific people working on the clue. Other than that, they're in the main cast.
Yeah, and also add like a ticking clock type element. It's just like, you can't. It's like a crossword. You can just put a pin in it and come back to it later. Which it's just like
it's weird that it's a ticking time thing because, like, literally they figure out where they're supposed to go halfway through the episode. They already figured out the clue and where they're supposed to go. Already figured it out. They just flesh it out a little bit more for the rest of the episode. But fucking Jet Reno was right from the beginning. You know?
Yeah, I do like how. Book is just like, well, let me solve this for you real quick so I can do this thing. You know, they literally have like this person that who somehow like outwitted them and outmaneuvered them at every turn, every single episode this season. And Stamets is just fine with her just running amok even though she's like seemingly like endlessly resourceful in everything that she does, like, you know, running amok on the ship, you know, just to her own free will. It's just like, no, but we need to solve this clue before you go stop this person who could possibly blow up our entire ship, who sent us in a fucking time warp where you were like constantly getting killed.
Yeah, or this person who might steal the clue, like the only other person who knows about all the clues, like. You're just gonna let this person like go free and just not go after her at all? Okay, that's an interesting decision. So Stamets realizes that the Beta Zeds are telepathic, and there must be a transitive link that Book might be able to read with his empathic abilities. Book focuses on the card and sees a huge plasma storm in his mind. Book says he had a feeling which he describes as eternity. So in sickbay, Culber continues to try to heal Locke.
This also reminds me, like, the fact like Book somehow finds multiple ways to use his empathy power to like just solve every single problem that happens this season.
Yeah,
it just kind of reminds me of like the Night Boat from The Simpsons, where like it's a boat, you know, it's supposed to be like Knight Rider, but he's a boat, but every single time like the villains go on land, there's always a fjord or a river or something that they can still pursue.
Amazing plot armor, no matter where it is.
Yeah, the villains on land, and so this always just feels like oh, well, there's like some sort of like telepathic empath thing that you can do to solve this problem.
Right. And if it wouldn't be that, it'd be something that Burnham could solve, because they're like, only mutineers can solve this puzzle or some shit like that. In sickbay, Culber continues to try to heal Locke, and Burnham returns saying she has a brain medic, but Rune wanted to come along. They enter, and the medic attempts to lock. Burnham tells them that they're holding Maul separately, lying. Rune says the Federation will pay if his nephew dies. With Non, she's on Maul's trail and finds her holding an engineer at phaser point. They start to shoot at each other, and Non tells her that Locke might die from the dose of meth. Book tells her she's not lying, and Maul surrenders. Everyone on Star Trek is a worse shot than a fucking stormtrooper. No one ever hits each other with a phaser. It's insane, unless they're like point fucking blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. You figure you'd have like phasers would like be attracted to body heat or something. I don't know. Like, there's so many ways you could do.
Maul and Locke just have like impossible amounts of plot armor on them, and then also, you know, so does Book, and so it's just like it just cancels out. Just like, you know, how like The Rock and Vin Diesel, they had like things in their contracts where neither of them could lose in a fight against each other, and that's sort of like the same thing that's happening.
That's 100% exactly what it is. Like, and part of me wonders if maybe if part of why this season sucks is like agents negotiating things and being like, well, Book's coming back next season and he's got to be in every single episode, and we got to have at least 5 away missions for him with Burnham, and I don't know, like
he's got to use the empath thing because everyone loves the empath thing.
Yeah. Do they? I don't think they do.
I mean, I'm sure there's like hardcore disco fans that are really into the empath thing.
Oh, there are. There's definitely hardcore disco fans who are into the entire show, but I don't. When you said everybody, and it's that ain't the case at all. I'd say maybe, I don't know. Star Trek Discovery has to be one of the least popular Star Treks, like in terms of like, you know, fan feedback, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably very popular with, like, you know, Zoomers and stuff. I mean, Zoomers, I think I've definitely seen like
48-year-old white women.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely seen like people of all age groups really, really like it. So I think it does have its, like, you know, its fan base. You know, I mean, I watch it because it's Star Trek, but it's just like, you know,
I watch it because we have to. Like, you know?
Yeah, it's just like, but yeah, like the season. I mean, it's the same reason I didn't like Picard. Just I don't like the drawn out season long arcs.
No, me neither.
I don't. And basically every single TV show does that now, and I think it's just like,
I mean,
really boring.
They found the perfect medium in Star Trek DS9 of having like one-off episodic episodes, but also keeping to a continuity of story in every single episode.
Yeah,
like, I don't know. They'll never do that
like
again.
Also just like moving the spotlight so like
True.
Everyone feels like a fully developed character in this world.
100%. I mean, it's like, there were several episodes that we've reviewed so far that barely have any Cisco at all in them, which is something like they would never dare to not put Burnham on screen for at least like 20 minutes in any Discovery episode.
And that's the thing. And Avery Brooks was in every single Deep Space Nine episode.
Right. But sometimes they were just like, you need to take a backseat to this one, so just come in and tell fucking Worf he's falling in love, and then he leaves. Or fucking Quark, I think.
Definitely like the ensemble cast type setting more. Because, you get, you have like episodes that focus around your favorite character, and sometimes you'll get the ones, that don't, but they're still good in their own way.
No. So, Maul, now surrendered, enters sickbay where Locke is close to death. Maul apologizes to Locke and begs him not to die. As Maul pleads that this isn't how their story ends, Locke dies, and Maul breaks down in tears. This is something I wasn't expecting, but I'm also expecting them to bring him back, because death has no meaning in the show.
Yeah, especially when they're like, the progenitor technology could bring you human beings back to life. And it's just like, okay, we know where this is going. And I don't know, I kind of thought like him off was like, I don't know, I was completely stone-faced during the whole thing. He's not like a character I don't think they successfully built any sort of like affection for.
No.
Or made you want to root for him in any sort of meaningful way.
No, the only defining feature he has is he's in love with Maul.
His butthole mouth.
And Maul is in love with him.
Yeah, he's in love with Maul.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, yeah. And so it's just like, we don't actually, as for, our villains are involved, you can look at like other villains that are in the Star Trek universe who are charismatic and like personable, and you feel like they're real people, and and even though like you hate them, it's like you love to hate them, like
right.
Gul Dukat or something.
Sure,
like, he's a fucking bastard. He's the biggest bastard you ever met. And, but you're just like, but you can understand, why he was successful in a way, and doing what he did. And with Maul and Locke, I just didn't really I don't really buy them as like being these genius level people who are able to outsmart the entire Federation.
Right. and the Breen Imperium. Like, they're on the run from like two empires, and they're just like outsmarting both of them at every turn. Yeah,
and still outsmarting them in a way, as we get to the end of this episode. It's just like, come on, like, when does this, like, what can't they do?
Fail. They can't fail.
Make me feel anything when Locke dies on the slab. I'm just like,
yep,
I don't care.
Yeah, well, there he goes. So Rune is furious and accuses the Federation of killing his nephew, the Scion. Culber explains he did it to himself, but Rune doesn't care and tells them to prepare for battle. At Federation headquarters, Trina is informed of what's happening as Admiral Vance tries to defuse the situation. Breen troops beam out of the ship, and Vance orders Red Alert. Just then, 4 more Federation ships arrive to help. So, Burnham and Culber continue to explain to Rune how Locke killed himself with meth, but Rune doesn't believe them. Maul realizes he's using Locke as a martyr to unify the Breen in a cause. Maul says she's married to Locke, and so Rune has to take her with them, and moreover, she can get a powerful technology for them, speaking about the Breen technology, or the progenitor. So, realizing she's not bluffing, Rune tells the Federation, they have 5 minutes to beam Maul to them, and then he beams away. In Federation headquarters, Maul is held in a containment field.
This is also just something that's just like, he's just like, now you make sure you give me this prisoner.
Right. Instead of just taking the prisoner, I'm confused why they didn't just take the prisoner. Like, I'll give them 5 minutes to gather their effects and shit. Like, what are you doing? You have replicators.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll be really skiffed. Yeah. It's just like, I feel like they were building this confrontation with the Breen up so much, and then nothing happened.
Right.
and they didn't really flex at the fact how they rolled up in that dreadnought fucking like massive ship that
the thing
awesome.
that could fucking destroy every other ship there. Like, that thing was sick.
And it's just like, it just to come to this very just like, stale, just meeting, and it's just like, okay, well, I also felt like, I feel like Maul should have had like a bargaining chip, like, I'm pregnant with Locke's child or something.
Oh, that actually is great writing. Like, yeah, because like if after Locke dies,
she's carrying the Scion.
Holy shit, that's a great idea. Wow, you just wrote this episode way better than they did. No, I like that.
Yeah, because I was just like, what other bargaining chip could she have? Besides, of course she could say like, oh, I know about this technology, but it's just like, why should they believe her?
Right.
If she proved her worth to them, be like, scan me, I am pregnant with his child right now.
Right.
And that then she would be vital to them because she would be carrying the bloodline, the new Scion that they need that the Primarch needs to ascend or whatever. Oh man, and I was just like, and they didn't do that.
You just did it too good. Sorry, you just did it too good. You can't do that. You're making these writers look like assholes. Making the writer of Elektra from 2005. I'm making him look like an asshole. So
I would say hire me, but this is their last season. It's already made, so.
Oh, you could work on Starfleet Academy, writing for Tilly.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Book doesn't want Maul to go with a Breen, but Burnham thinks she has a plan. Vance asks if Maul knows anything about the technology, and Non comes in with a translated version of Velek's diary, finally. It's not very important except for maybe one passage, and it's cryptically about resurrecting the dead. Burnham realizes Maul thinks she can resurrect Locke, and this is all part of her plan. So Trina asks about any more perspectives, and Rayner says Maul doesn't know they got the most recent clue, nor have they seen it. Trina decides to give Maul to the Breen, and Vance undoes the containment field, and Maul is beamed out. Book is pissed about this.
That's also why I'm like, you think if Maul was really smart and thinking about their survival and like resurrecting Locke is her biggest mission, why wouldn't she align herself with Starfleet, considering they have all the fucking pieces?
They
have the book.
Right.
What is she? I was like, what is she bringing to them? That just means they have to. They not only do they have to like beat Starfleet to the rest of the pieces, they also need to also forcibly go to war with Starfleet and attain the others. Right.
And they talked about this briefly, kind of like. They're like, oh, Maul doesn't have like the most recent clue or anything. And they're like, oh, well, I mean, the Breen can like trace our warp paths and stuff like that, but they can't get places nearly as fast because they don't have discovery. So I don't know, man.
And they also don't have the physical pieces that are needed to unlock this thing.
Right, exactly. Because you would presume that eventually this entire thing is like a key, right, of some sort.
Yeah.
So.
And I think even like Stamets said, like he was able to use like some sort of like predictive algorithm to create the missing piece or whatever.
Right.
And adding it didn't do anything because I guess there's some special properties to the other pieces. So it's just like, so you literally need this thing that they're building throughout this entire season, and the Breen don't have it. Nope. Maul has 0 pieces. She literally has nothing.
Right.
And what she's bringing to them, to the Breen, is something that the Federation, and Romulans and Klingons encountered, but not the Breen.
Right.
They're hearing this secondhand story from 800 years ago.
Sure.
That they have no reason to believe in, or
they do have a reason to believe it, because when Maul mentioned the progenitor technology, like everyone discovered was like, oh, and then Run was like, oh, No, but they could have just been
these
setting
people that are lying to me.
Yeah, like that would have been funny if like this was like just an elaborate lie. Like Maul's like, I can get you a powerful technology, and everyone was like, now. Oh no! Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Yeah, and that's why I think it would have made more sense. Yeah, if she was, carrying Locke's child. But what do I know? What do I know?
Storytelling. So Book is pissed that Maul is beamed out, and the Breen warp away peacefully with Maul. In Burnham's ready room.
No, completely bloodless.
Yep.
Not scary.
Yep. So in Burnham's ready room, Stamets says they figured out the next clue, and it's the Eternal Gallery and Archive. They figured that out fucking half an episode ago. Tilly explains it changes locations every 50 years. Adira says the card allows them access to a specific item. They trace the archive's path and find the current one in the Badlands. Burnham prepares for them to jump. The others leave, and Burnham and Raynor wax poetical on their trauma, and she tells Raynor he handled it pretty well. I hate when they end one of these episodes with a scene like this. It's bad. Like, we don't need, like, the big, like, philosophical speech on trauma and how it shapes I don't know. It's like it's so rote.
Yeah, like
and
holding a man's hand and being like, you did very well.
Right.
Not letting like the wholesale murder of your entire species get to you during this whole situation. You did really good.
Once again,
it's just
a liberal fucking comforting a Holocaust survivor. It's like,
yeah, it does feel condescending.
It is. It's very condescending. Like, Burnham is incredibly condescending to fucking Raynor.
Yeah.
She's very like, and it doesn't make like
she
any
does
sense
have like
to me.
Hillary Clinton face a lot. Like that.
Oh yeah, where she smiles, like she does the smile, like, oh honey, smile, and then she starts to talk.
The smiling that looks directly through you and just like, yeah,
it's an HR smile is what it is. Like, Michael Burnham is like the ultimate HR captain.
Yeah.
You're in a state of flux. Like, what?
You're in a state of flux.
Shut the fuck up. Raynor and Burnham beam onto the bridge and go onto the Black Alert, warping away. End of episode. What'd you think?
Yeah. I mean, it was all right. Like, I thought like the Breen ship looked pretty sick. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I was just like, no, that looks fucking cool. I mean, then again, like, I think it kind of runs into the problem, like a lot of like sort of like big ships, like, like the Borg cubes have, where it's just like they don't have much maneuverability.
I mean, it's in space. Because I don't like.
Yeah, it's in space, but yeah, during like any sort of like conflict, like it's kind of like the Death Star almost, where it was just, like other things could be whipping around it and be hard to hit, and it's almost a sitting duck in space. But I thought it looked cool. I thought like, I'm glad Locke died. I thought he was kind of annoying.
A little bit, yeah.
I didn't really like his character.
But they'll probably bring him back, though. We know that.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, they're gonna use the progenitor technology, this amazing like, technology that is like far beyond anything that exists in the entire universe. They're gonna use this like miracle science to, the Federation will use it, but only to bring back like this fucking guy. This guy I'm sure that's how it'll end. They're just gonna bring Locke back, and because everybody wants to see more Locke.
Oh god, are you ready for this? Are you ready for how bad this is gonna be? So by the last episode, they resurrect Locke, and Locke becomes the new emperor of the Breen Empire.
Oh, and then usher in like a kinder, gentler Breen.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then again, or just be regular Breen, because it's like he's not a good person.
No,
he doesn't have any. He doesn't that we've seen. He's not like a compassionate or.
He's nice to one human.
Someone,
yeah, who he has
he's
sex
nice
with.
to one person, and yeah, we really seen like no redeeming qualities out of either of them. And so it's not like that's again, that's one thing why it's just like I think they do kind of fail as sort of like the antagonists, or they're the reluctant antagonists, like this like Bonnie and Clyde style couple who are just like they do these like illegal things, but like they have like this incredible bond of love that unites them, and they Bonnie and Clyde had a lot of charisma and stuff, and it's just like it's like a lot of like Discovery characters, they're just kind of like charisma vacuums.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, now that you mention it, like it makes me wonder like how this season of Discovery was pitched. If they were like, all right, you've got Indiana Jones, you've got Bonnie and Clyde, now what happens when you put them in space? Like, what
if you just removed all of the cool things about those characters,
right,
and then made it, then put
right
What if you had Indiana Jones but like Harrison Ford was really boring?
Right What if we had Indiana Jones but he was in HR and cried all the time?
Yeah.
I don't think I want to watch that.
I mean,
what if,
and also I don't think we're going to get the way this season's going, I don't think we're going to get a wedding episode.
We have 3 more episodes left.
And yeah, I don't see them
season.
fitting in like a Saru and Trina wedding episode or anything. It would probably be like an afterthought in the final episode or something.
Right. Yeah, I'm just making sure. I think this season's only 10 episodes, right?
Is it?
I think so. Making sure right now because the last ones were 13. Yep. This one's only 10 episodes. Last episode is 2 weeks from now. Yep. So, yeah, super fun. And then we can do an episode where we just review the entirety of Star Trek Discovery.
Oh boy,
that'll be something else, huh? Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's that. What would you give the episode overall? What do you think?
Maybe like a 5 out of 10. Like, it wasn't like, I mean, like I felt like the last episode was actually like probably my favorite of this entire season. And this, I don't know, it's just like, that's the thing. I don't really, as I said, like I don't find Maul and Locke to be compelling characters. I feel like this is like a premise that shouldn't have been stretched to 10 episodes. Because at this point, like I feel like I feel at this point we should have been given the progenitor technology. They should have got it by now.
Yes.
Like I feel like we should be dealing with the ramifications of it instead of like still like having to do this whole like mad dash, just like go and collect, like go to this different dungeon and collect this thing type plot line again.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should just like have all the Chaos Emeralds and do the thing. Not do another Chaos Emerald episode.
No. But what else do they have though? Like, I don't know. Because at this point we're still 3 episodes left. Still like we're still just like waxing, just like speculating about what the progenitor technology can do, and by not giving us anything, not giving us a little to taste of it, like I feel like the effectiveness of that threat of the progenitor technology, I think we saw like briefly in that flash forward, right? The like, but that's the thing is like in the flash forward, it wasn't the progenitor technology that destroyed Starfleet headquarters. It was the Breen dreadnought.
Yeah.
Like,
and yeah, it's just, I don't know. I would have, if you're going to do like the season 10 episode arc, give us something give us something good, give us some good shit, dude. You gotta like go out on a bang, not like with this kind of like just milk toast type bullshit.
No, it's going out with a whimper. It's
yeah.
I don't know, another season of universe-ending capabilities that they must rectify, all while working together as a team, even though we only ever see like 3 members of that team.
Yeah.
That whole thing. I'd give this episode probably, I don't know, like a 4 out of 10. I mean, the production was really good, but like the story and where I see this going is bad. Yeah. Then again, the series finale of Star Trek Picard brought it around. They could always have one last episode that is a fucking banger.
That's true.
But I doubt it. I kind of doubt that one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
I guess we will see. Indeed. Well, you got anything more to say on it?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, thanks for hanging with us, Soldiers. We liked hanging with you. If you appreciate our show, please go listen to our other podcasts or check out patreon.com/dumbidiotbs. And please don't be afraid to like, rate, and subscribe this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Yeah, thanks for hanging with us, Soldiers. Be well, travel safe. Maybe avoid this episode, maybe this whole season of Discovery. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll report back on that later.
Or if it's your thing, I don't want to knock, anybody's likes. I can see like there's something for everybody and everything, you know.
Right. This
if
just
you're a fan of Discovery.
Yeah, this just obviously isn't for me. I feel like it isn't really true to a lot of Star Trek. But if it gets more people interested in Star Trek, whatever. I think there's just better ways to do that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for checking with the Soy Boys, Girls, and Whirly Beans.
Hang dong.
Hang dong.
And shocker.
I am Cookbot 9000. Bring me your hot wife. I want to fuck your hot wife with my big robot bull daddy dick. In and out, 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 in and out.